No, I'm not saying all Germans. Of course not all Germans, right? Some Germans, and the majority, they were in the majority because Hitler won. Hitler won the elections. Hitler was chosen.
Initially he did, yes, that's true.
Okay, wait. Hitler, an evil man who came, this is how it works. Donald Trump. It rings a bell, right? It rings a bell. It's not very far. Okay. Well, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. When Hitler came to power in 1933, he looked like the guy who's going to lift Germany out of oblivion it sent into by the First World War.
Trump will not ban his political views.
Okay.
He will not be able to circumvent.
Well, no. You can trust me. You won't do a good job defending Trump. You won't. You will stand here and condemn him in a minute if I start to give details what he has said and what he means by what he has said. Leave Trump aside. Currently, there's no comparison between Hitler and Trump. I agree. Currently, right? Potentially, what happens in the future, we don't know. Okay. So Hitler was chosen or elected by the German people by a landslide victory, right? He had convinced the masses in Germany that this is what I think of the Jewish people.
No, he wasn't appealing to their anti-Semitism. He appealed to their patriotism.
Whatever.
The Jewish
whatever it was.
He was elected in 1933. Okay. The Jews were started to be killed in 1940.
Whatever it was. I don't care about the details.
They didn't elect him because he was anti-Semitic.
So socially, when things are agreed upon, sometimes doesn't necessarily mean those things are right. Okay, just because there is a social consensus in a society or on something. Alcohol, for example. Wait. Let's talk about a more homely example. Alcohol. Here in this society where we live now, alcohol is normal. People use majority. I'm talking to the majority, right? There's nothing wrong with having a pint or having a shot here and there. No problem with that, right? But we know alcohol is directly linked to 80% of the violent crimes taking place in Britain, right? Well, that's true. If you, I can't.
My first one yesterday.
Okay. Alcohol is directly linked to most violent crimes in this country. Take my word for it. Go and do some research. It is. Yeah. Okay. So now, your social consensus point goes down the drain. It doesn't, because morally you cannot use social consensus to support your morality.
No, I agree. There are times.
Okay, thank you. So now where do your morals come from?
I'm not saying all morals are good. Some morals are bad. Some morals are poor.
But when you say good, it's a circular argument. When you say good, what do you mean? You're going to say when it's moral. And when I'm going, well, what's moral? You can say when it's good. Okay, what is good? It's moral. What is moral is good. So you're going to go around in circles.
We have to have a referee that tells us what's good and what is good.
Yes, thank you. Otherwise, it is destruction, chaos on a grand scale, global destruction.
Something which I disagree, such as, what if the referee claims that women are only worth in court half the validity of a man?
That referee's wrong if he claims that.
He did claim that.
I know what you're talking about. So you have misunderstood.
And Sharia.
You have misunderstood that. The same referee tells you, if you paid attention to that referee otherwise, he tells you that the testimony of a woman is absolutely equal to a man in the same court. The same referee tells you that. Did you know that, gentlemen? Did you know that?
Hold on a minute.
Did you know that, gentlemen? Okay. Not only that. Wait. Let me finish. Now, I haven't finished it. The same referee. Can I finish? The same referee tells you that a woman is far more superior than a man in status. The same referee tells you that.
Where?
You're laughing, but okay. So there's a bigger picture you've missed, right?
So
in chapter 24. Wait. Let me finish.
And men are allowed to mistreat women. And treat them as their property, but they exalt women.
Right. Okay. Now, when you're going to talk about these things, firstly, before we get to these things, I'm completely open to these questions, and I will show you why you may have misunderstood these points in our faith, or why you may have understood the referee. That's why you reject the referee, because you don't actually understand the referee. So that's why you don't accept his judgment. Now, before we get to that point, I want to know the standard you are using to judge that referee. Where does that standard come from, and why is that standard worthy of our attention? Why shall we now follow that standard which you have come up with?
Sorry?
Sorry?
I see no evidence whatsoever of the referee even existing. B, I believe that all morals ultimately stem from within.
These are completely different questions now. We are jumping from morality to another question now, God's existence. Now, can we stick to morality? I'm asking you a question. You as an atheist, what standard do you have to judge the referee or anyone else for that matter, and where do you get this standard from, and why is that standard even true?
Are you asking me how we judge a referee, or asking how we get morals if we don't have a referee in the first place?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to this latter point first. It's often thought that people like yourselves, or atheists, cannot have morals because we don't believe the referee is giving us the external referee is giving us the morals by which we must believe.
No, but why are we jumping the gun? Why are we going to the referee for? I'm talking about your standard.
Yes.
You believe in certain things. You believe referee is wrong. The referee is wrong. I'm asking wrong based upon what? What do you mean by wrong?
Well, first of all, I don't believe the referee exists. But secondly,
okay, that's another question.
Correct. But even if I know you think the referee exists, and I'm merely taking you at your.
My thinking doesn't matter. I'm asking you about your thinking. Why do you think things are wrong? What do you mean by wrong?
Okay. Morality, as far as I'm concerned, is created by man because we live in communal societies. We make rules and laws for ourselves to regulate the way we interact with each other.
And then we cause destruction. Do you agree?
Of course, ultimately we have.
Thank you so much. So we agree. We both agree that men, when they make laws and rules, those rules and laws eventually lead to destruction on a massive scale.
They have historically led to destruction often. But that's
more often than not. More often than not.
Societies in the world today are the Western society.
Okay, let's talk.
This one.
Let's discuss the existing laws. Let's discuss the existing laws. There are laws.
There are wars all over the Middle East.
Okay.
Islam rules.
So
there's no wars in Europe.
So the bottom line is wait. Can we not digress? Can we? The bottom line is you have no set definition of wrong. You, as an atheist, have no set definition of wrong. The word wrong. Hence, you cannot use.
I disagree. I do have a definition of wrong.
Okay. So what standard do you use to reach that understanding of wrong?
Communal standard that we create as a society.
I've already shown you that communal standard has failed us again and again. So it cannot be used for our well-being. That communal standard has led to massacres and genocides of a grand scale.
It protects you. Why
I don't need your protection when you. Wait. I don't need your protection when you are killing 6 million Jews. When you're killing 6 million Jews, I don't need your protection. I don't need your protection when Native Americans were completely wiped out of the map of America. Okay, I don't need that protection when 11 million.
My point is, you don't get robbed when you come up here to speak.
Sorry?
You don't get attacked. You don't get killed when you walk on the street. You don't get robbed every day because we have laws. The laws punish those people that would otherwise do that to you.
I agree.
So you're protected by the very rules.
And these laws are very religious in nature. I believe. Okay, did you know in the 10th century Baghdad, in the Islam, I don't know. Okay. By the way, this is not my doing. I didn't plan this. Yeah, this is just a random discussion. We started talking, and so in the 10th century Baghdad, we had discussions. Are you listening? Between atheists, Christians, Jews, so-called heretics, and Muslim theologians, having debates between each other in a perfectly harmonious society, coexisting with each other, and no problems. No one's torturing them. Did you know we didn't have any witch burnings in the Islamic lands? We didn't have any heretic burnings. That was all happening in Europe. Okay, and then after.
Explain to me then how Islam spread from the Arabian Peninsula all across North Africa. Did it not? It was conquered by the sword. They attacked.
That's a good. When you say Islam, okay, no, that's a good question, guys.
Can we just?
That's a good question.
We have a discussion.
That's a good question.
We have a discussion.
That's a good question. How did Islam spread from an Arabian settlement called Mecca to places like China and southern France? How did that happen? Okay, when you ask me how did it spread, Islam had at least two kinds of spreads. One was territorial, right, and one was religious. How did Islam spread as a religion is a separate question to how did Islam or Muslim empire spread.
The distinction between the two.
No, there is a distinction.
What is the distinction?
Distinction is that Muslims took the land by force, no doubt. I'm telling you categorically. I'm not one of those people who's going to run and hide and be apologetic about our history, but by force. The Muslims, early Muslims, fought the Byzantines and the Persians and the Chinese in some cases and the North Africans and Spanish King Roderick, because they believed that these empires and kingdoms are absolutely oppressive. And why was the spread made so fast? What happened? How did it happen so rapidly? Some historians. Well, let me finish. No. The Arabs didn't have any nuclear weapons or tanks or Scud missiles or drone. Okay. So the Arabs. Wait. No, they were not. Have you? I mean, again, this is an area where I have thoroughly studied the spread of Islam, the early Islamic expansion or the early Islamic conquest. There are people like Carol Hillenbrand who has written on this extensively. She stated that the Arabs had no special weapons to conquer the Byzantines and the Persians simultaneously, the largest standing armies on the planet. The Arabs had no special weapons. One of the reasons historians forward for this rapid expansion of the Arabian Empire is that these empires were very oppressive, and the masses, the people on the land, the peasants, supported the expansion. They came out to help the Arabs. They welcomed them as liberators. This happened in Syria, this happened in Egypt, this happened in Persia, this happened in North Africa, this happened in Spain. When Tariq bin Ziyad landed on Spanish territory, the Jewish people, the Jewish people came forward to welcome them as liberators. So this is how the expansion was facilitated. This is the
Jews have changed their opinion of Islam since.
Since when? Wait. That's a very good question. Since when? Since
the conquest of Spain. You said they.
No, sir. For over 1,000 years. This is where I love the park, because here we get some education, right? A lot of people come with misconceptions in their minds, and then they get some education, and in return I get education. I get taught by many people here. I come with misconceptions and I'm corrected so many times. This is why I love the park. Jewish people for over 1,000 years, listen to me carefully, 90% of the Jewish population of the world lived under the protection of Islam for over 1,000 years. Who says so? A Jewish historian called Bernard Lewis in his book The Jews of Islam. I'm not saying this. The Jewish golden age was in Spain, in Al-Andalus, what they call the ornament of the world, okay, where the Jewish people were writing in the Arabic language, in the Hebrew alphabets, the characters, the alphabets were Hebrew, but they were writing in the Arabic language. Like Maimonides, he wrote in the Arabic language, a guide for the perplexed. He wrote this book. So major Jewish scholars and academies, you know, the oldest academy, Jewish academy in the world, where it was in Baghdad, in Iraq, Babylonia. The Jews existed in Iraq for as late as 1940s. After the creation of Israel, the relationship went sour. Things went sour. People, you know, Muslims, because of Palestine, they started to have, you know, and then the Jewish people, some Zionists hijacked the Jewish religion for their cause. So these are political issues. Historically,
it was only a modern phenomenon. It didn't exist.
Anti-Semitism is a European phenomenon. It's a Western phenomenon. No, it's not an Islamic phenomenon. I'm sorry. This is what we. Anti-Semitism is a European. Anti-Semitism existed in Europe from the day one. Jews were accused of dicide, which means killing of God. Okay, so Jews were accused of that, repeatedly tortured. The books were burnt throughout the Middle Ages. They were banished from England by Edward I, and then from France, and then where did they go? The question is, where did they go? They went to the Muslims. They went to Spain, and afterwards, when they were expelled by Ferdinand and Isabella in Spain, they went to the Ottomans. So a large Spanish Jewish community ended up in Jerusalem or in Salonika, and even in Morocco. So Tunisia, Morocco, everywhere. Yes. So the point is, your point, you know, you have a misconception about our history. Islam.
No, I asked you how Islam spread. You said it spread territorially as distinct from religiously.
Yes.
Now you're saying
so the religion of Islam.
You say you conquered lands, yes.
Yes.
But you were welcomed as liberators, and you persuaded the local population to take the religion.
How do I know this? Muslims were in power in Egypt until now. Okay, since Muslims took Egypt, it has been in their hands, right? the oldest Christian community in the world, arguably, is the Coptic Christian community. Muslims were absolutely able to, any time in the history, force the entire population into Islam. They didn't do it. The oldest churches in the world are in the Muslim world. They were not demolished, right? Okay.
That's because what is now the Muslim world, the Middle East, was originally the Christian world.
Thank you, but it has been the Muslim world for the last time.
Even the Crusades, which Muslims are very fond of quoting as aggression by the West against Islam, that was all they were doing is trying to reclaim Jerusalem, which had been taken from them by the Arabs in the first place. So Islam had conquered Jerusalem, so the Crusades were a response to that.
When did Islam conquer Jerusalem?
Of course they did.
When?
What, in the 9th century or the 10th century?
No, sorry. Muslims took Jerusalem in the 7th century, 636 CE. Right, exactly. And how can you call Crusades a response to that when Crusades are taking place in the 11th century? There's a gap of 5 centuries between the early. So there is no response.
The claim was by the Europeans,
by the Pope,
kings,
by the Pope,
and by the kings.
Right.
They said we
so
have
what
to
happened?
reclaim the Holy Lands from the infidel, right?
Okay.
Which is what you guys call us. But
What's your name?
Greg.
Greg. Greg. When the Crusaders came into the Middle East, you know what happened?
What happened in Jerusalem?
The Jews fought them. The Muslims fought them, and the Middle Eastern Christians fought them because they saw them as barbarians who have come to disrupt the peace.
Against the Crusaders.
Sorry? Yes.
Christians fought.
Yes, they fought. Armenian Christians fought against the Crusaders because they had a perfectly harmonious existence with the Muslims. Muslims are not, the Holy Sepulchre. The Holy Sepulchre.
Saladin, he had generals of Christian generals.
And again, all of these things. I am surprised that an intelligent man like yourself hasn't been able to so far study the history of Islam thoroughly to see this side of the picture. Okay, what you see, I don't blame you. What you see on the media, a bunch of Islamophobes going around, including atheistic activists. Some of these atheist activists who put up videos, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens.
I love Richard Dawkins. I love Christopher Hitchens.
So you agree with Sam Harris when he said that we should preemptively nuke the Muslims?
No, he never said that.
What did he say? What did he say? Shall I read what he said?
Fine.
Okay, what did he say?
I don't know.
What did he say? But if he said it.
Read Sam Harris.
But if he said it.
Well, how can I said he didn't say it, so how can I say that?
If he said it.
What's his stance?
Okay. Find where Sam Harris claims we should nuke the Muslims.
He said preemptively we should nuke the Middle Eastern countries.
Find me a quote he said that.
If he said it, Sam Harris on nuking the Muslims. It's very easy. Google, Master Google.
Hillary Clinton, she said she was.
Sam Harris is a voice of reason in a sea of.
Let's see how reasonable he is. Sam Harris on nuking the Muslims. We should profile Muslims or anyone who looks like he or she could conceivably be a Muslim. Okay, wait, son. Well, it doesn't spend it. Wait. It's there. Sam Harris, the new atheist and anti-Muslim animus, Glenn Greenwood. What did he say about nuking the Muslims?
He didn't say anything about nuking Muslims.
Sam
Harris is a very reasonable guy.
I'll show you the quote, and if you read the quote, and if he said anything like it, will you condemn it on camera? Yes, as an atheist.
If he said anything like that, I would condemn it.
Okay, that's very reasonable.
I read his books. I've got all his books.
Okay,
I watch him on YouTube.
Okay, have you come across any statement like that?
No.
Nothing like
from
it.
Sam Harris, no.
Not Sam. Okay. The quote. 1 second.
Anyway, we can move on because I don't.
No, we're not moving on.
There's a video.
Yeah, wait. No, but wait.
There's this video.
I want the specific quote.
Henry, what? What's his name? Your brother, what's his name?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Sam Harris. He's a neuroscientist that writes about religion. He wrote
Kill us all, is he?
He wrote The End of Faith.
You want to kill us all?
He doesn't want to kill. I just said he doesn't want to kill you all. You're not listening. But he finds a lot of fault in Islam, as do I. He finds a lot of fault in religion generally, as do I.
Hillary Clinton said same thing.
She didn't say kill the Muslims.
Pakistan.
She didn't say bomb.
Muslim, innit?
Look, it's very easy for you guys to come up here and make these wild statements. I want to see evidence. It's an evidence-based approach.
Give me the video.
I'm listening to it.
Sam Harris didn't say anything like that. Hillary Clinton didn't say anything.
He was asked about this on that very video he's talking about, and he responded to it. That I didn't mean that. He said something. If I wrote something like that in one of my books, you know where I would go? Any idea? Any idea? No, Guantanamo-ish. They would have to open a new one for me. You see the world we're living in. Okay, we're not moving on. We're not moving on until I find the quote.
We could be here a long time.
No, we're not going to be here for a long time. Okay.
Oh, Google it seriously, like Sam Harris.
Nuclear first strike. Here, look. Let's go to the video.
And we'll freeze in the first.
Sam Harris. When I go home tonight,
Skip. Click skip. Click skip here.
Sam Harris had written in one of his books that we should nuke the Muslims.
No, he never said that. I know, I've got all his books.
Logic.
He's even more mistaken than you guys.
Yeah?
Jesus came to the world to die.
Suicide mission. Doesn't make sense.
Nothing religion says particularly makes sense, but he makes even less sense than most.
Crucifixion was execution more than sacrificial.
Do you have a Quran? Do you have a Quran, Rashid? Do you have a Quran? Did you read it? Oh.
I've read bits and pieces. I've seen a lot of quotes.
Because these quotes, people, they take some quotes and they take it out of context. For example, the testimony of the woman. I mean, for half of the men.
Guys, can someone find a quote for me? The nuclear first strike on Muslims.
This is
Sam
not all the
Harris.
time.
The nuclear
This is not all the time. This is a certain transaction and a trade transaction, but this is not all the time. Because you will find in the Quran as well, saying to the woman that her testimony is exactly the same as the testimony of the man. So it's not all the time something which is we will say.
How does a man divorce a woman in Islam?
The man divorces a woman either by himself divorce.
No.
Yeah? And then as well, if she requests her divorce as well.
From that, it says maybe nuclear first strike.
Okay, here it is.
It's in his book.
Which book is this?
End of Faith or something like that.
If history is any guide, we will not be sure about where the offending warheads are or what their state of readiness is, and so we will be unable to rely on targeted conventional weapons to destroy them. In such a situation, the only thing likely to ensure our survival may be a nuclear first strike of our own. Needless to say, this would be an unthinkable crime, as it would kill tens of millions of innocent civilians in a single day. But it may be the only course of action available to us, given what Islamists believe.
Yeah, what
Sam Harris.
Man, do you know what he said on the video? He's saying...
Wait. Okay, wait. Ali, calm down, man. Yeah. If we read the quote, Sam Harris said that we should do a nuclear first strike on the Muslim world to prevent the Islamists taking over the world. Okay. And although it may kill tens of millions of people, not thousands, tens of millions, so he's okay with that. Tens of million people, but that will protect us. That will guarantee our survival, our protection. So
I would need to read that quote again. But
okay, if it's
on
true.
face value, that sounds like a terrible thing to say. I agree.
Right. So this is now survival of the fittest in action. Okay. So no. Be honest about this, Greg. Yeah. Wait, guys.
Quiet.
No, he should, but of course. And I'll be honest about it. If I wrote something like that in one of my books, even vaguely, what do you think would happen to me? Nothing. I can show you examples where people have not even sneezed. Forget about saying something. They haven't even sneezed. They end up in Belmarsh, they end up in Guantanamo Bay. Sometimes they're kicked off the plane for saying Alhamdulillah. You know, when we sneeze, we say praise to God in Arabic. And when you say that in a plane, in the wrong plane, by the way, way, full of, amazingly, most of these planes, it doesn't happen in the Emirates flight going to Dubai. It doesn't happen because Emirates is run by a Muslim, mostly, Muslim. But if it's a flight like, let's say, Pacific, American Airlines, or one of the European airlines, it happens. If you say Alhamdulillah, you will be kicked out. Try it. You want to try it? Next time you fly.
Given the prevalence of terror in the world today, much of it is done.
Terror of who?
Terror by Islamists against the Western.
Okay. When you say Islamists, who do you mean?
People who profess to represent Islam.
Are they evil? Are they wrong?
They're evil and they're wrong.
Based upon what? What do you mean by wrong? Okay, exactly. You're going to come back to communal. This is why, with an atheist, with an honest atheist, you cannot give me a set definition of morality as an atheist. You can't.
Morality is what we as a society create.
And I've told you, it's flawed.
Perfect.
No, I'm not saying it's imperfect. I'm saying it's destructive. Mark my words. I'm not saying it's imperfect. That's a polite way of putting it. I'm saying it's destructive to put it as it is.
If instead we throw away any concept that we are able to make our own laws and rely solely.
Why don't we look at laws that work? Why don't we look at laws that work?
Allegedly that come from some mythical god or creature beyond our ken.
Put God aside. Put God aside for a second. Wait. Let's say God, for argument's sake, God doesn't exist. For argument's sake, we have let's say, for argument's sake, as an atheist, as an honest atheist, you want the best for humanity. I agree with that. Okay, and I would agree with that. And for that, we need to look at different legal systems in different times in different places and see which one worked the best. Put God aside for a second and see which one worked the best. Which one enabled humanity to coexist, live in peace, and make progress in due course. Okay, when we look at all of these legal systems, we come to realize throughout, let's say for the last 1,000 years, okay, when you look at the history of Islam and Muslim societies, you will see Jews there, you will see Christians there, you will see Muslims there, living side by side together, studying, teaching in universities, going to hospitals as doctors, as physicians, and they're working as philosophers.
What I observe now is I see Muslims fleeing Muslim lands.
What you are observing now is the doing of colonial powers. It is the doing of colonial powers. Okay, wait, Muslims.
The fact that Muslims are fighting.
When does our history start?
Or in Syria.
When does our history start?
634.
Thank you very much. It starts in the 7th century. It doesn't start in the 1990s, since the bombings going off, right? Kamikazes were there before us. Tamil Tigers have been doing it for a long time. Maoist rebels in India have been doing it. FARC rebels in Colombia have been doing it. So we're not the only victims, or we're not the only culprits here.
Most of the turmoil in the Middle East today is done by Muslims on other Muslims, right? Yes, the Muslims are the biggest victims of other Muslims.
Wait. As you already acknowledged, our history starts in the 7th century. So why don't we start from our history and start seeing how we lived throughout history and what changed suddenly in the Muslim lands. What happened? Suddenly there was a change. There's a war in Iraq, there's a war in Syria, there's a war in Yemen, there's a war in Libya. What happened? So let's go to the causes. And when you honestly study the causes, you will come to realize that it is not our doing. We don't want that for the world. We as Muslims, we want peace, we want harmony, we want love, we want compassion to rule. We don't want destruction, terror, and cruelty to rule. So what's happening in the world is not our doing, and what has been happening in the world is also not our doing.
He knows, but he don't want to admit it.
No, it's not. Is ISIS? A better question would be: is ISIS a creation of Islam? The answer is no. Who created ISIS? Who created ISIS? Who created ISIS? The American invasion. The American invasion. That's the answer. Nice talking to you, Greg.
Quote the Quran when they throw people off.
ISIS doesn't only quote the Quran. Jay Smith quotes the Quran. Jay Smith quotes the Quran, and he quotes it. He quotes it no different to ISIS. Yeah.
And he like ISIS. Are you a mathematician yourself? Because I'm a mathematician. I do PhD in computational mathematics.
Very good.
So Greg, nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
When I saw you doing
Whose mic is this? Whose mic is this? Yeah. Greg, this is a must read. Okay. This is a must read.
Howard Zinn.
Howard Zinn, United in the history.
You're a very educated man. And
I'm still a student. I'm still learning.
We're all students.
Very nice talking to you, by the way. Yeah, no hard feelings. No hard feelings.